Welcome to the Blonde Runner podcast with Coach Laura Erickson, where she shares her healthy living tips as a running and triathlon coach and mother of 4.
Hello, Coach Laura here, and I just wanted to go through, I think this time of year is it's a spring in Utah, northern Utah here, and it's time to start getting outside on our bikes. So I wanted to talk about safety for a little bit, especially if you're a beginner rider. This will be really beneficial for you. Some of the things you need to consider at this time of year, it can vary with the temperature. So obviously having clothes that are going to be comfortable for you. When I run, I usually dress to get warm. Or 10 degrees, I guess, is a difference there. And then when I ride and dress 10 degrees like warmer than, because it's usually get colder as the air goes past you. So be aware that you need to wear obviously layers or long sleeve, or bring a jacket that you could peel off if it gets hot. So having the right kind of clothes definitely helps, and gloves and those kind of things if it's cold temperatures here. Also bright color clothing is really good too. But before you get out and ride this time of year, a lot of people go from maybe an indoor trainer to outdoor. Some of the things you need to consider, obviously, you're making sure you can't ride outside on a training tire, a tire that you use for your trainer. You have to change out your tires, your back tire particularly, and make sure you've got that changed out. Don't ever try to ride an indoor trainer tire outside. Very dangerous. So definitely make sure you change that out. Obviously, checking your air pressure, making sure your brakes are working, making sure everything is in good repair, everything's tight, that your wheel is on, good. Make sure everything works before you get out and ride. It's also a good idea to get a tune-up if you can before you start going outside. One thing that I always like to do, especially in the spring or the fall, is to make sure I have lights that are working on my bike. Not only a front light, but a back light. Because sometimes when you're out there, you maybe don't intend to go very far, but you run into some, road construction or something on your road bike, or maybe your mountain bike, it takes longer to get where you thought you were going to go and back, and you might be caught in the dark. So it's always a good idea to put that on your bike. Also, you want to check through your saddlebag, and you want to make sure that you have everything you need to change a tire or patch a tire on route. It's always a good idea to bring some food. I usually bring some chamois butter, chafing for if I go to the bathroom on a ride or something I need to reapply. I also like to make sure I bring enough water with me. Always going to have nutrition. Always plan for, I guess, the worst. You hope for the best and plan for the worst, but make sure you have all those things with you. I am a big advocate for road ID, making sure you have identification on you, because you never know if something happens. I've been hit by a truck before on my bicycle, and it's an accident. You don't expect it to happen, but of course I had identification, and everything turned out okay. And I'm grateful I had my helmet on. A big, huge, definitely have a helmet. A lot of people have helmets, they don't necessarily fit them right. You definitely want a helmet that doesn't bobble around on your head. Usually you want the helmet to come down about 2 fingers above your eyebrow. So some people hold them, they're on their head, but they're way on the back. You don't want that. You also want to make sure the straps connect right below your earlobe, and then you have maybe a finger or 2 under your chin strap, but not much more. You don't want it to choke you, but you want it to be tight enough where it's not bobbling around. So definitely wear a helmet. You can also check in the helmet, and it'll tell you what year a helmet. You don't want too old of a helmet. You want to make sure that it's a, more recent. It'll tell you what the year is on that. So don't get one that's too old. They do kind of deteriorate after time, and you want to make sure you're safe and it does the job that it's supposed to do. Other things to consider when we get out on the roads is understanding the traffic rules. Bicycles are like cars. You should travel just like you would in a car. You need to stop at stop signs. You need to obey the traffic laws. Obviously, staying to the right of the road. If you are on a paved path, you always want to stay to the right and pass on the left. This is kind of a concern in my area. We've got a legacy path, and often people are riding right in the middle, or they don't realize that they need to stay on the right. Either direction, you always stay on the right. and then you pass on the left. And being very verbal, it's okay. You want to be seen on a bike. If you're not seen, you're hit. So you want the bright colors, you want to signal and let people know what direction you're going. You want to talk to other riders if you're around other riders. If you haven't ever really learned those things, I highly encourage you to get involved in a group. Groups can tell you and teach you things, but let them know you're new and that you need to be taught these things, because it can be dangerous if you're not aware of how to do hand signals. But honestly, riding one time with a group and asking those questions, you'll learn all the signals that you need, and you'll find friends probably to ride with. So it's really great to do that. Also, there's just safety in numbers. If something happens, maybe you're new to riding and you don't know how to change your tire. Hopefully someone knows, but it's always helpful, of course, to have everything that you need. I do have a clip on my website on not only bike safety, you can just plug it in the search, or also I talk about how to change a tire. So if you haven't learned how to do that, I highly suggest learning, because you don't want to rely on other people. You do want to practice it and rely on yourself on how to change a tire. But it's really fun to ride outside. The biggest thing is just being aware of your surroundings, obviously looking for problems. If you ride in inclement weather, obviously having the clothing that supports that, but if you're ever in the rain, usually want to have a little less air pressure in your tire, maybe 80, 85 PSI. You need to look on the side of the tire. It will tell you what the max PSI is, pressures per square inch. Usually I ride around 90-ish. They can go up to 125, some of the tires. One thing that I did not realize when I first started riding road tires is that you lose pressure pretty easily. So if you ride, every day, you might need to pump your tires up every few days. Definitely once a week for sure. Mountain bike is a little bit different. You don't lose as much pressure. You don't maybe need to pump them up as often. But understand that there are different kind of valves too. There's a Prestra valve, and I can't remember the other name, but if you look it up, you'll see that mountain bike obviously has a different valve. And with the Presta valve, you actually have to unscrew the top of it for you to put air in the tire. So if you're brand new, I do talk about that on my clip on how to change your road tire, so definitely check that out. It's really important to know that. And then know the differences, of course. Mountain biking, you're going to have different equipment. It's going to be a little bit different. Maybe gloves are a little more important there. There usually is a little different type of clothing that you wear for that. It's just a different type of thing. But either way, also understanding like the trail conditions. I know some trails in my area are really snowy still and very muddy, and so we don't see too many mountain bikers on them quite yet, but soon enough they'll be out there. So obviously checking wherever you're at. I always check the weather. I check the other, being a runner and everything, I check the weather every day. Make sure you're checking in your area, wherever you're going to be riding. What are the traffic situation going to be? Obviously, avoiding those really trafficy times, that will help keep you safe. And, looking things up. If you're not sure, what routes to take in your area, maybe you're new, I would suggest looking up there's a Map My Run or Map My Ride that are great apps that will show you routes that other people have done. I would recommend, if you do save a route, maybe not make it public if it's from your house. You don't want necessarily people to know where you're living, but you can definitely find some routes that people do commonly, and that will give you an idea of what some good routes might be. You can always map a route too and get an idea. Back old school, we used to drive the route to see how far it was. Now we can just plug it in on, My Fitness or my Map My Run or Map My Ride, and you can zoom in on your area. You can design a route for yourself. That's kind of nice to be able to figure that out in advance. So obviously pre-planning with anything is great. Sometimes I go on explorer runs or rides where I kind of have a general direction and I just go for it and have fun. Always have your phone, just in case something happens. And it's always fun to go with a friend, just safety wise, just, making sure that you're okay. Always, if you do go on your own, I would say let someone know where you are and when you're expected to come back. give them an idea. There are some apps where you can actually follow a rider and see where they're at on route. That's kind of nice for safety as well. So lots of great things to, get out and do and enjoy, but being safe is probably number one. And this is the time to think about that. So definitely be aware of all those things, and hope you have a great ride. If you have any questions or anything else, feel free to contact me on my website at blonderunner.com. And I'd love for you to follow this podcast. If you like it, give it a like, give it a comment. Anything to help would be great, or share it with a friend. And appreciate your time, and have a great night. And until we see you again, live well.